Okay.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So what you can do in a technique there to make numbers feel even bigger is that you take a stock. So let's say it's a pharmaceutical stock, in this case that went up 567%. Then what you do is you take another pharmaceutical stock that went up but nowhere close to 567%. And you set that up first. And the way you do that is this. And I'm gonna tell you some copy that's not here, but it could be above this copy. So you could say, look, if you wanted to play the trend in immunotherapy, you could have bought Pfizer. Pfizer went up 18% during that time. Then you show a chart, and then you tell the gains. That's enough to turn every $1,000 into $1,180. Here comes the money statement. Not bad, right? Literally, write this in your copy. Not bad, right? But let me show you where it gets better. Arena Pharmaceuticals would have went up a massive 567%. So what you're doing is you're juxtaposing the mainstream way to play the trend, getting them to imagine that they could have bought into Pfizer, could have made 18%. Not bad, considering the treasuries only pay you 2%, right? Not bad. You want them nodding their head. Then you show them how it gets even better with playing the trend through Arena, which could have made you way more. Then, if you really want to get savvy, you can show how much higher of a gain Arena made in percentage terms versus Pfizer. So if Pfizer went up 18% and Arena went up 560%, I can't do that math. But you could have said you could have made 13,000% more by playing Arena. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now you got a huge gain in there, 13,000%, or whatever that might be. And all you're doing is dividing out the 18% by the 567%. So you see how you're layering in the proof there? If you're proving out that you can make a shit ton of money in immunotherapy, show Pfizer as a comparison, get them to nod their head. Oh, I would have liked to make 18% when treasuries are only making 2%. Okay, cool, not bad, right? Well, let me show you what you could have made by buying Arena. 567%, which is 13,000% more than buying Pfizer. So you see how you're layering in the proof there?
It's also the idea of inevitability, right? Like, the conclusion is inevitable. You're going to make a lot more money doing this than that. It's not even a dispute.
That's one of my favorite copy techniques, is comparing something normal that's better than the average, something normal but better than the average, getting them to nod their head that that's pretty good, and then showing them how much better it could be. And you'll see that time and time again in copy. And literally the transition statement in between those two pieces of proof are, it's not bad, right? 19% is not bad, 18% is not bad. Well, look how much better it could have gotten.
Bar chart there make a pretty decent visual, you think, where you show like on a bar chart, like
absolutely,
this is $10,000, but this is $10 million.
Exactly. So I mean, look, you got another
keep,
piece of proof,
keep
right?
dimensionalizing it.
Yep.
I mean, just keep dimensionalizing until then. Again, like you don't want to go too far where it's boring, but as long as it's compelling, keep dimensionalizing it. Visual aids, we kind of talked about that. You know, if you could just show a picture says 1,000 words, that's true. Metaphor and analogy is a form of proof because it's a way of building up trust and the belief you're talking about. This is an example from the impact system of trying to explain the mechanism of the currency wars making you money as part of like ripples in a pond. So metaphors, analogies, pretty powerful proof. Reason why, we'll get more in this about copyboarding, but the more reasons why something is true, the better. You usually can find that the magic word is because. That's why is another kind of keyword for that. These are kind of how you can also kind of construct like pseudo kind of logical arguments that aren't really logical, but they kind of seem logical. You can also use words like therefore if you want to sound like you're really being like some sort of philosopher or something, or just an economist or whatever. Like it depends on the person's personality. But so someone like Jim Rickers says X happens, Y happens, therefore Z happens. Well, it sounds like that's pretty logical conclusion, even though
like they're related, but they're not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they are emotionally, right? Like, but that's all that really matters. Showing how the mechanism works. If you have a mechanism, how things work. Again, analogies and metaphors are really powerful in how to do that. I put studies in quotes, investigations. framing things as like research projects. So that's the piece of copy from Canadian Social Security, how it was framed that this editor was doing an investigation. It wasn't just he was trying to make a sales letter to make money. He was actually doing an investigation and reporting his findings. Acknowledging disbelief or candor. Candor just means being frank with people. That's another way to build up trust and confidence. You can just say, like, hard to believe this could be true, right? I mean, that's just like another thing that's kind of related to candor would be damaging admissions, which are, I think Ben Settle calls them making your skeletons dance. You can show something that's kind of a negative about what you're presenting. Here's an example from the 4 Foot Farm, where he just admits, like, you could go through Amazon and find the exact same information, but why bother, because I did it for you? It's kind of a damaging mission. You got to turn it around to a positive, of course, but identity, that someone's just like you, that goes back to like the empathy thing we talked about earlier. There's another piece of copy from the 4 Foot Farm where whatever his name is, Sam McCoy is talking to him, and he talks about how he's from Austin, Texas, and he's sick and tired, just like you, about high food prices. Power-form proof. Science, I put that in quotes on purpose. Some of this is not going to pass the scientific method, but we're trying to get people to understand and feel like they're confident in what you're talking about. So if you show this to like a biology professor, that's probably going to horrify them. But they're trying to like simplify things though to still make it true, but like, you know, we're not here to give them a science lesson. We're just trying to build belief that whatever the thing we're talking about is, if it's based on science, well, you got to make it sound like it's based on science, right? Like, explain the science a little bit.
I'm gonna give you a technique on that one. And this is like the deeper level of science, and I call this one, what the fuck are you talking about proof? And the way this one goes is that you publish the most dense piece of scientific research you could possibly find in your sales letter. Like something from Harvard that someone is a pure scientist who's never written any persuasive paper in their life. You publish that proof. So if you're talking about, like in this case, RNA interference, publish the most dense motherfucking piece of proof you could possibly find, and then have the editor who's speaking to the reader simplify that proof for the reader. So it could go something like this. What is RNAi interference? Well, let Harvard explain it. And then you have a paragraph in there that they cannot understand at all. And then the editor comes back and says, put simply, what that means is, and then they explain it simply. Persuasively, what are you doing there?
Showing them that you're an expert.
Showing them that you're an expert. Showing them that you understand that crazy gobbledygook science, that it actually exists, but you're able to simplify it for them. So that's a deeper level of science, right? So instead of just having the editor explain what RNA interference is, have Harvard explain it first in a way that the reader cannot understand it, and then have the editor simplify it for the reader where they nod their head and they're like, I don't understand, but it's obviously that guy does, and he's able to explain it to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now you get 2 pieces of proof on the same item. You get Harvard saying it, which you'd never be able to use in a sales letter because they can't write normally, and then you're getting the person come back in and saying, what that simply means is this. So you get kind of liking and reciprocity, and you establish the credibility and the authority because it's obvious that the person who's writing the sales letter knows what that Harvard doctor is saying.
Yeah, that has a desire people too. People do desire to understand. They don't want to be taken advantage of. They want to feel smart. That's a pretty powerful desire. I mean, it's not the most. A lot of times people buy our stuff because of greed and fear and curiosity that are more powerful than that. But I think people, they want to feel like they're going to get it and not feel dumb. They definitely don't want to feel stupid. So if you show them something they don't understand, they're like, I'm out. I don't understand this. But if you show the contrast effect, like you're making 2 things. One, they're getting to actually understand it, but you're also getting to feel like a lot of goodwill toward that person. Like, oh, this guy's going to figure it out for me. He's going to show me how it works. And you know, the implicit of that is when they see the offer for the product, they're like, oh, I want to get more of that. I'm going to get some guy to tell me how the world works.
So here's how you can layer this stuff. I'm going to continue to use science as an example. You could say something like, what is RNA interference? Rather than me explain it, let me let the Harvard doctor who first found this phenomenon in science explain it. Here comes the chunky paragraph that no one's going to understand, right? Then the writer comes back in and says, put simply, what that means is this. Cool. Now we're going to layer stuff, and we're going to say something like, but the truth is, you do not need to understand anything about science to profit from RNA interference. All you have to do is buy when this line crosses and sell when this other line crosses, and look how much money you could have made through these 3 stock examples. You guys see how we're layering all that stuff together now? Because we're telling them what they don't need, which we talked about before. We're giving them some piece of social proof. We're giving them some type of scientific proof. We're having them explain it to the reader, and then we're showing them examples of how it all works. So we're layering all that proof together in one section.
Logic, again, I put it in quotes because it doesn't necessarily have to be logical, but that's kind of like your standard high school persuasive paper. Kind of your thesis, your reasoning, and then conclusion. That's pretty powerful. Stories, we're getting into stories now, which are extremely powerful, probably the most powerful form of proof. There's endless amounts of stories. Again, I only fit as many as I could on this, wherever I could staple. Like the one powerful kind of story is like, I didn't believe this either until I saw these results. It's a pretty powerful story, especially if it's in first person. That's another thing too. 3 kinds of stories, okay? The least powerful is third person. Let me tell you about this guy, okay? It's like, okay, some guy, right? Not as powerful. It can use them though. I mean, it can be powerful. Second thing is